Welcome to Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners. I'm Dr. Edmund Sulkowski, and Tucker and I would like to welcome my nephew, Alexander Sulkowski. Alexander, welcome to Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners.
Hi.
I think this is going to be a very interesting show today for everybody because, once a week we take our trash out to the road, and then we're clueless of what happens to it. And Alexander is co-founder and CEO, is that your title?
Co-founder or director.
Director of
Noble Environmental.
And Noble Environmental has been doing a number of things with our trash that I think the public is totally unaware of, and I think it's pretty fascinating. First of all, Alexander, what happens when we take our trash, we separate the recyclables and what we call trash, and we put it curbside? What happens from that point on?
So from there, there's the part that the public all sees every day. It's the garbage truck driving around from house to house, collecting all the trash. After they fill up that truck, it comes back to our landfill, and then at the landfill, that's where everything kind of happens. The landfill is actually probably more of a technical, engineered sort of facility than people really think.
It's not the old concept of just a dump.
No, it's not a dump at all. There's a ton of civil engineering, environmental engineering in pretty much every step of the process.
And actually, by profession, you are?
I'm a civil engineer.
Civil engineer.
Yeah. Civil environmental engineer.
Graduate of?
The University of Pittsburgh.
Okay. So are there certain things that we shouldn't be putting in our trash?
Electronics, household hazardous waste, paint that isn't solidified, things like that.
Why is that?
Those things contain a lot of chemicals and certain metals that you don't want in a landfill.
So what do we do with them if we don't put them in our trash?
Those end up, there's recycling facilities for those. There's specific pickup days, depending on where you live. And
so are batteries included in that type of thing?
Batteries are considered an electronic waste.
So if I had a computer, I'm not going to throw my computer in the trash bin?
No, if you have a computer or a laptop, that goes into an electronics recycling facility. And most municipalities will have either a collection point, or when they bid out the trash to the hauler, will have an on-call service, depending on where you live.
So we throw our daily waste, paper, aluminum foil, whatever, in our trash cans. The trash company picks that up, and it goes to the dump. Now, what exactly happens well, we don't want to use that term dump. What do we want to call it?
It's a landfill, or it could also, we like to think of it as almost like an energy facility, because basically what happens when the trucks come in, they go up to what is called like the work phase for the day. And that's where in the morning, our excavator operators essentially uncover the trash from the prior day, and they dump all the new trash in that area. It gets bulldozed into that area, then compacted throughout the day. At the end of the day, that gets covered up, and then the next day you move on to the space next door to that. You generally open up about an acre a day.
So to create a landfill, you're actually going on some property and digging a big hole?
No, well, it's usually you essentially fill in a hole and line it. It's all lined with multiple layers of plastic liner. No water that actually touches the trash is discharged off the property. It's all collected it's all considered leachate, and it's collected and sent to a municipal sewer plant.
Also, it's not leaching into the groundwater.
No, there's groundwater monitors or groundwater monitoring wells pretty much around every landfill in the state of Pennsylvania, and they were all monitored on a quarterly basis. And there's never been a failure of a lined landfill in the state of Pennsylvania since they implemented that design.
So this is lined with layers of plastic, and then all the trash gets dumped into that. Do you shred the trash before or anything like that, or?
No, it's pretty much just comes straight out of the truck and compact. The big thing is compaction. So we have a gigantic piece of equipment. It's a CAT 386 compactor that just smashes the trash because you want to compact it as much as possible because you want to have an efficient use of the airspace that is permitted in your landfill.
So you put the layer, and how many layers of this compacted trash before you cover it with dirt?
Every night we have to cover our trash. And generally you don't just layer it up on one on top of the other. If you're opening up like this acre today, you open up the acre next door tomorrow. So in your cell, which is generally like 3-4 acres, you're putting the trash in lifts, like 1 foot lifts, as if you were like building up a soil berm for a bridge or something like that. Same theory behind it. So you compact for stability.
How deep will this landfill become when you stop filling in that area?
Ours, it just depends on like where you are at the landfill, but there are points where we will have over 200 feet of landfill.
What eventually happens when the landfill is full?
So the way the state permits a landfill is you design it. Or it's one original design. It gets permitted, passed through the state level and your local township level or host municipality, and it is permitted 3-dimensionally. So all your airspace is permitted right off the bat. And when it does, when you fill that airspace up, you're pretty much closed. You can't do it anymore unless you get an expansion permit, but that's hard to do.
In the future, are you ever able to build on top of a landfill or turn it into a park or
Yeah,
like
there's
that?
plenty of landfills out there where people have built buildings, parks, golf courses.
So it becomes usable land once the landfill is closed because it was engineered properly.
Because it was engineered properly. Parkway Center Mall, the top of Green Tree Hill, is built on an old landfill. So that was the left. If you're going into the city down Green Tree Hill on the Parkway, that whole left side was a large landfill.
Yeah, that's actually where the AM 1250 studios are, the radio studio,
Yeah.
right at Parkway Center.
Yeah.
So trash comes in, and then you have separation with the recyclables.
No, our recyclables are separated at people's houses.
Yeah. So what happens when they bring the recyclables in? When you bring those to the landfill?
Those actually don't come to our landfill. Those go to a recycling facility.
Separate facility.
Yeah.
And they deal with all of that.
And they'll do the on-site sorting, and then they from there find a market for it.
So would you identify for our audience what is the components that we should be recycling?
Right now, you actually can't. The market for recycled glass isn't there, so a lot of that glass that ends up contaminating the recyclables and ends up in the landfill. So you can't recycle glass right now, and plastics lower than like the number 1 and 2 plastics, the real fine plastics, those also aren't recyclable.
Oh, so there's a grading to plastics?
Yeah, if you look on plastic containers with the little recycling triangle, in that center there's a number, and that's the grade of plastic.
So 1 and 2 we're not supposed to throw in our...
1 and 2 technically aren't recyclable. There's no market. Same thing. There's no market for it. So like these recycling facilities that are commingled facilities, they're all those recyclables go there. They site sort them, and then a lot of the stuff that isn't recyclable just ends up back in our landfill.
Oh, so at one point recycling was based on environmental causes, but now it's based on markets.
It's all market based.
So glass is out, and I recall that happening here in Peters Township.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1 and number 2 plastics should not be thrown in. What about like cardboard and things like that?
Cardboard's still recyclable.
So in the recyclable tin cans?
Yeah, aluminum.
Aluminum. What about other metals?
Yeah, I mean, no.
So
They don't like steel or
they don't
things
like
that.
steel or
No,
anything like that?
Yeah, that's not recyclable.
Okay. So
I mean, that's essentially like scrap metal. It's kind of a different market, different
Yeah.
facility.
okay. I say I think it's important to know because I think most people aren't aware of that. You know, we tend to don't want it at our place and just throw it in the trash
Yeah.
and get rid of it, or throw it in the recycle bin and get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it really seems not to be the case.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's kind of it's a changing market. A lot of it was actually dictated by China. So China used to be the number one purchaser of all that recycled material, and then when those, they basically had enough of their own material to where they didn't need to ship it across the country anymore, or across the world anymore, they stopped buying it.
Yeah.
So there's like domestically, it's evolving, but it's just not to the point where we've found multiple economic uses for those lower grade plastics and glass yet. The market will find a way someday.
How many landfills are in the state of Pennsylvania?
Oh, jeez. 90, I think. 90-ish. I really don't know.
Do we take waste from other states as well into the state?
Yes. It's interesting kind of dynamic that evolved in the 90s. There was a lot of airspace being filled up in the larger cities, kind of from DC, Philly, Jersey, New York, all the way up to Boston. And the landfills were getting filled up. They weren't permitting new landfills. Everybody's running out of airspace. So the prices locally, by locally I mean like New York locally, when the tipping fees were $100 a ton plus, whereas here it's significant. $30, $20. So it pushed a lot of that. It created a market to bring out-of-state trash into the state, because you could make there was an arbitrage there to where you could make up you had the cheaper disposal costs, and you could still cover the trucking costs out of Jersey or New York into Pennsylvania.
I actually recall seeing some pictures of trash being held on barges and going down the river.
That happened in that was in New York. New York actually, way back, used to put their trash in a barge and take it out in the middle of the ocean and then
dump it. Yeah, that's a good environmental thing.
It's not a good thing to do.
So we're taking in trash from not only people that live in Pennsylvania, residents, but from local states surrounding us. But you're doing something at your company with this trash that actually has a real good environmental impact. Would you tell our audience about that process?
So basically, when you put all the trash in the landfill, there's a lot of organic material in it, like food wastes or things that will decay. As they decay, that organic material throws off a lot of methane. So
methane's a gas.
Methane gas, natural gas. So historically, landfills would just flare off that gas, and you're burning a huge amount of gas.
What do you
every
mean
day.
by flare off?
They would just there's wells essentially all over the landfill.
Pockets of gas, basically.
No, the whole landfill really produces a ton of gas.
Okay.
And you seal it with dirt because you don't want that gas getting out in the atmosphere, because that's really that landfill smell that nobody wants in and around. So you put wells all over your landfill, put those wells on vacuum to collect that methane out of the landfills. And then that methane is then sent to a flare. And it's just a big ball of fire.
Big ball of fire that's running 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day and burning, 1.5 million cubic feet of natural gas a day.
Which is a big waste.
It's a huge waste of energy, and it's a huge, you are flaring it, so it's better than just emitting that methane into the atmosphere as far as like greenhouse gases are considered, but it's still a significant source of air pollution.
Air pollution, and it can be a significant source of power if used properly.
So that's what we did at our landfill. We put in a high BTU gas plant that takes our landfill methane and essentially cleans it and brings it up to a pipeline spec natural gas that you can use for anything else that you would use natural gas for. You could use it to heat your home. You could use it to generate power. We actually, since we own garbage trucks also, convert it into compressed natural gas and use it for transportation fuel for our trucks.
So you're not, you have, what's the name of your trash company?
Currently, the trucks are county hauling.
County hauling.
It'll be Noble Environmental shortly.
So it's a subdivision of Noble Environmental.
Yes.
So those trash trucks, pickup trucks that are picking up our trash daily, are run off of natural gas.
Yes.
Those big, huge trucks.
Yeah, compressed natural gas.
So you, in effect, are taking a byproduct of waste fermentation and not having to buy gas to fill your trucks, and then saving the environment at the same time.
Yeah, and we've sort of completed the circle. So
that's pretty amazing.
our trucks then have the fuel to go out and get more trash to come back, bring it back to the landfill to produce more gas.
So it's saving your company a lot of money on fuel costs, at the same time helping the environment.
Yes, I mean it's a huge help. Our emissions are 96% less than what they were before.
So what's the facility like in order to process that, or is there a number of steps that this process has to go through?
I mean there's huge steps, but if you wanted to take, there's a ton of steps, but to simplify it, it's basically vacuum into the plant. There's an hydrogen sulfide removal system. There's a little bit of that in there. Then there's like basically carbon dioxide and VOC removal, which is the other volatile organic compounds, and then atmospheric nitrogen removal. And then pretty much those are the real big steps. And then after that, you have a pipeline spec natural gas.
And then you have a filling station on site.
Yeah. Well, we're building it.
So is there a potential for you to end up selling that excess that you're not using to other companies?
Yeah, there is an yes. Our filling station will have public access eventually.
Because there are a lot of vehicles. Doesn't the post office use a lot of natural gas?
Post office does. UPS does. A lot of corporations. Pretty much any fleet where they're going out and driving around for the day and then coming back to a centralized facility is a good candidate for compressed natural gas.
So how many hours a day does the trash part of your company work where they're picking up trash?
Well, a lot of guys start early. Our landfill is open for dumping from 6 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon.
So you constantly have this barrage of trucks coming in and out of your facility?
Yes.
Do other companies besides yours use your landfill?
Yeah. There are a few other large trash haulers that dump at our landfill, and there's a lot of local people can come in if you have a pickup truck or a trailer of trash, or if you demo your roof. And they're all free to dump at the landfill.
Oh, you don't even charge for them?
No, I mean we charge them, but they can dump at the landfill.
And how do you charge?
We charge them by if it's a larger truck, we charge by the ton, and if it's a smaller truck, like a pickup, it's just sort of a flat fee, pickup or trailer.
So any time before 3 o'clock, you're good to come in and do that.
Yeah.
And is there limitations on what you can bring to the landfill?
Yeah,
as a private citizen?
As a private citizen, it needs to either be construction and demolition debris, or municipal solid waste, just regular household garbage. If our landfill is allowed to accept residual wastes.
What's residual waste?
I think pretty much other, like an industrial waste, plant trash coming out of a manufacturing site, grit from wastewater treatment plants.
What if I have old Chester drawers that I don't want any longer?
That's construction and demolition debris.
That's considered construction demolition.
Or yeah.
Yeah. So I can get rid of old furniture by bringing it to your dump.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the dump located, Alexander?
It's in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania.
So right off of...
It's right off of Route 70, and essentially right off of Route 51 also.
So do you do work with the the industry here that we have, the gas industry?
Yeah.
What type of work do you do with them?
We take some of their waste, some of their drill cuttings. That's a residual waste.
So does that have to be treated differently than the regular waste?
Yeah, every one of those waste streams needs to be analyzed by a PADEP approved laboratory, and then you get your analytical results and send it to the DEP for approval. And every waste stream has, limits as to what level of chemicals there can be in it.
And what type of waste does this look like? What does it look like? Is it a sludge
Rock.
or rock?
Like
just
rock.
rock.
Yeah.
And it's part of the extraction process that they use to.
Well, pretty much. The only
fracking?
thing we take is either the vertical section of a well, which is drilled with air, so it's just rock. So we take that rock, and then the lateral section of a well is the shale cuttings. And we take the just ground up shale.
The fracking industry is pretty big here in this part of the state.
Yeah, it's fairly it's fairly large. It's a little less. It's kind of cut back right now because gas prices are relatively low. But
and that's what they're extracting, or gas?
Yeah, they're extracting natural gas.
And do they get oil out as well with that?
Some oil, but a lot of it around here is natural gas and natural gas liquids.
So that's
like butane, pentane, that kind of stuff.
So your fermentation process at your landfill is different than what the gas that you're extracting from your process is different than what the fracking people are taking.
Chemical structure of natural gas from the ground and the natural gas from our landfill is exactly the same. It's CH4, so it's a carbon molecule and 4 hydrogens on it. But ours is technically considered a renewable natural gas, just because we're fueling it with the trash. We're adding fuel to our landfill to produce the gas. That fuel is the garbage.
So you're basically having an endless supply of natural gas. You're creating.
Yeah, as long as we're dumping trash into our landfill, there will always be more and more gas produced. After you close your landfill, like post-closure, obviously the methane production kind of tails off after about 10 years, 15 years.
So how long has this procedure been going on that landfill companies have been extracting the gas and utilizing it as opposed to just burning it off?
I think in the early 2000s is probably when it really started, and a lot of people were just using it for site power generation at that point. So there's a lot of those older plants around. And then within the last couple of years, handful of years, 5, 6, whatever, they've been putting these high BTU gas plants that instead of using it for on-site generation, they're using it for transportation fuel.
Do you generate at your plant electricity?
We have 2 large generators that we actually generate with gas purchased from the grid.
From the grid, you don't use your gas.
It's better for us to use our gas for transportation fuel.
And how many trucks do you have?
Currently, we have about 100.
100. I bet the audience is curious what a truck costs.
Oh, they're a lot of money. They're anything. They're a lot.
A lot?
Yeah.
Like million?
No, like north of 200,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. What's the lifespan of a truck?
Oh, you could ride. If you maintain a truck, they'll run for 1 million miles.
So some of these trucks run off of diesel.
Yeah.
And then some on natural gas.
And you could convert the diesel to natural gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some new ones coming in the early part of 2020 that'll be servicing a lot of the local areas. like Cannonsburg and Washington, and those will be compressed natural gas trucks.
So what you're doing really
Branding.
now isn't really that big of a switch from what you studied at Pitt to become an engineer. I mean, I remember when you first graduated and you moved to Las Vegas, you were laying kind of planning source for development and so forth. It's just basically an extension of that education.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like, I mean, my core education was environmental engineering, and it was water plants and sewer plants, and then I have some experience doing like horizontal infrastructure for cities.
And I know you're LEED certified. I remember when you did that. We have a couple minutes left. What does being LEED certified mean?
Oh, so that was actually for environmental building processes, like essentially like green building, green construction.
Well, I thank you for taking the time out of your busy day here. I think it was pretty informative because we really don't think about what happens once we throw it in that trash can or in that garbage bag and take it to the trash can and see it leave. You know? You're impacting our daily lives by cleaning up our waste and not polluting the environment. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alexander Sulkowski.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Remember, a healthy pet is a happy pet. When you're healthy, you're happy as well. We'll see you next time on Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners. I should say, Tucker and I will see you.